Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. When was the last time love felt like peace? Not butterflies, not chaos, not mixed signals, just calm, just safe, just real. We've been taught to chase passion that burns, to idolize the drama, to romanticize the people who make us question our worth in the name of love. But today, I want to flip that narrative. I want you to understand that love, real, healthy, lasting love, should feel like home. It should feel like a place you return to, not run from. A place that doesn't demand you to shrink, perform, or prove your value, but instead reminds you every day that you already are valuable. So many of us settle for love that makes us anxious simply because it feels familiar. But familiar isn't always healthy, and chemistry isn't always compatibility. It's time to shift, to rise, to heal the parts of you that keep choosing chaos, so you can finally open the door to a love that anchors you. Because the love you truly deserve won't come from chasing. It will come when you stand still in your truth and let it find you. Love that feels like home doesn't begin with someone else walking into your life. It begins with the moment you realize you are worthy of that kind of love in the first place. We grow up surrounded by stories that celebrate sacrifice, suffering, and longing, and somewhere along the way we learn to associate love with struggle. We think we have to earn it, we think we have to change ourselves to keep it, we think we have to shrink our needs to make space for someone else's comfort. But the truth is, the love that truly feels like home starts when you stop chasing and start choosing yourself. Self-worth is not a luxury, it's the foundation. Without it, even the purest love will feel like a threat. You'll second guess the good things, sabotage healthy attention, and keep chasing people who confirm your old beliefs that you're too much or not enough. That's why the journey to the love you deserve starts with healing the wounds that made you settle for less in the first place. If you've ever begged for love, waited on someone to change, accepted crumbs just to feel seen, it's not because you're broken. It's because at some point your heart was taught that survival meant tolerating pain. But love that feels like home doesn't come from survival mode. It comes when you know, deep down, that love should not cost your peace. So many people fall into relationships hoping the other person will fill the void, hoping that being chosen will fix the feeling of being unwanted. But love doesn't work like that. You can't outsource what you haven't cultivated within. You won't recognize a love that feels like home if your inner world is full of chaos. That's why the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you build with yourself. The one where you learn to meet your own needs, speak your truth, and walk away from what doesn't align. Not because you're unlovable, but because you finally love yourself enough not to settle. When you know your worth, you stop begging for bare minimums. You stop confusing silence for mystery, mood swings for depth, and emotional inconsistency for passion. You begin to understand that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That stability doesn't mean boring, it means safe. That being seen, heard, and understood should be the standard, not the exception. And from that space, something powerful happens. You begin to attract different kinds of people. People who reflect the way you now treat yourself. People who don't make you guess, compete, or prove anything. People who love you in the way you've learned to love yourself, consistently, gently, completely. Love that feels like home starts when you decide that you are no longer willing to abandon yourself to be loved by someone else. It begins when you stop auditioning and start owning your story, owning your voice, owning your worth. Because the version of you that knows their value won't settle for a love that feels like a battlefield. That version of you only chooses peace. That version of you chooses home. The world reflects not what you wish for, but what you believe you are worthy of. That's a truth many people don't want to sit with, but it's also the key to understanding the love you receive. If deep down you believe that love should be hard, painful, or distant, you'll unconsciously gravitate toward people who reinforce that narrative. You'll mistake inconsistency for excitement. You'll call it fire when someone makes you question your value. You'll stay in situations that drain you just to avoid being alone. But none of that is love. It's trauma dressed up in attraction. It's unworthiness repeating itself through your choices. You attract what you believe you deserve. And that truth isn't punishment, it's power. Because if you can shift your beliefs, you can shift your life. You can shift your relationships. You can shift the type of love you allow in. But that shift doesn't start with a new partner, it starts with a new pattern. It starts with the moment you decide to stop outsourcing your self-worth and instead do the work to root it deeply inside of you. So many of us were raised in environments where love was conditional. Maybe love came after performance, after obedience, after success. Maybe love was withheld when you failed, disappointed someone, or showed emotions that made others uncomfortable. And because of that, we internalize the belief that love isn't given freely. It must be earned through perfection, through people-pleasing, through emotional labor. So we grow up becoming versions of ourselves that we think others will find lovable, while secretly fearing that if we were truly ourselves, raw, messy, authentic, we'd be left behind. But here's what happens when you carry those beliefs into adulthood. You attract partners who confirm them. You find yourself in relationships where you constantly try to prove your worth. You ignore red flags, you stay too long, you lower your standards, and worst of all, you start to think that being tolerated is the same as being loved. It's not. You deserve to be celebrated, not endured. But until you believe that at your core, you will keep calling pain passion and inconsistency mystery. The good news, beliefs can be rewritten, and the process starts by getting radically honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I believe about love? What do I think I deserve? What kind of treatment have I normalized just because I was afraid to be alone? What version of myself have I been presenting in relationships, and is it even real? When you start to unpack those answers, you start to see the patterns, and once you see them, you can break them. This is where inner work becomes the game changer, because when you build a strong internal foundation, your outer world begins to shift. You no longer chase people who make you feel like a burden. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You no longer entertain relationships that require you to abandon yourself. Why? Because now your standard is peace. Your standard is respect. Your standard is mutual effort, not one-sided sacrifice. The love that feels like home is a reflection of the love you've learned to give yourself. It's the result of healing the parts of you that thought you had to fight for love. When you stop betraying yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you begin to create space for people who meet you where you are. Not above, not below, but eye to eye, with truth, with presence, with intention. It's not about being perfect, it's about being aligned. The moment you decide that you are worthy of safe, secure, soul-deep love is the moment you start attracting it, not because the world changed, but because you did. You stop reaching for what was never yours to begin with. You stop confusing chaos with chemistry. You stop mistaking being needed for being loved. You attract what you believe you deserve, which means your job isn't to fix anyone, it's to rewrite the scripts that say love must hurt to be real, to break the cycles that keep you choosing people who don't choose you back, to release the fear that tells you being alone is worse than being misunderstood. Because once you do that, you begin to embody a new energy, one that no longer begs to be seen, one that no longer fears rejection, one that knows without a doubt that love is not something you earn through suffering. It's something that meets you when you refuse to settle. And from that place, everything changes, because now the love you're looking for isn't outside of you, it's within you. And the people you allow in your life are simply mirrors of how you've learned to treat yourself. So treat yourself with grace, with boundaries, with softness, with strength, and watch how the world and love responds. There is a dangerous myth that has infiltrated the way we define love, the idea that it has to be wild, unpredictable, and chaotic to be real. We've been fed the story that the most intense relationships are the ones with the highest value. We're told to chase the butterflies, to crave the ups and downs, and to see emotional roller coasters as signs of passion. But let me tell you something that might shake your foundation a little. The love that feels like home will not feel like fireworks. It will feel like sunrise, steady, quiet, consistent. And for many people, that kind of love is mistaken for boring until they finally get tired of burning. Safe love doesn't come with drama. It doesn't make you question where you stand. It doesn't leave your messages unread while you overthink every word you said. It's not love that pulls you in just to push you away. It's not love that plays games or uses silence as punishment. Safe love is communication, clarity, and calm. And while that might not give you the same high as the love you had to chase, it gives you something infinitely more valuable, peace. You know what's actually boring? Spending nights crying over someone who can't make up their mind. waiting for a text that never comes, apologizing for having needs, pretending you're okay with the bare minimum because you don't want to lose what little attention you're getting. That's not romance, it's emotional exhaustion. And it keeps you stuck in cycles where your nervous system is constantly in survival mode. You get addicted to the adrenaline of being wanted one moment and discarded the next. But real love doesn't activate your anxiety, it calms it. Safe love creates space for your growth. It doesn't punish you for evolving, it encourages your transformation. When someone loves you in a grounded way, they don't get insecure about your strength, they celebrate it. They don't try to control your journey, they walk beside you in it. And in that space, you learn to breathe deeper. You stop bracing for the next emotional blow up. You stop feeling like you have to perform to keep their attention. You begin to understand that being deeply known and still fully loved is not a fantasy. It's what you always deserved. One of the reasons safe love feels unfamiliar is because many of us were raised in environments where love was conditional, inconsistent, or tied to performance. So when we experience someone who is steady, available, emotionally mature, we question it. We look for red flags. We think, where's the catch? Because our subconscious believes that love has to come with a little bit of pain, but that belief is not truth. And healing that trauma means learning how to receive love that doesn't make you work for your worth. Safe love still has passion, but it's the kind of passion that isn't fleeting. It's not a high that crashes. It's a flame that stays lit. It shows up through deep conversations, shared goals, emotional intimacy, and mutual respect. It's not about grand gestures every day. It's about the small, consistent ones. The ones that say, I see you, I choose you, I'm here. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. That kind of love requires maturity. And that's why it's rare. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, love that builds slowly and intentionally can be misunderstood. We've been conditioned to associate chaos with chemistry, but chaos is not compatibility. It's just familiar if that's all we've known. The real magic happens when you learn to slow down and listen to your body. What does your nervous system feel around them? Tense or at ease? Do you feel like you can exhale when they're near, or are you always on edge? That is the compass you should be following, not just the excitement that fizzles out when reality sets in. It takes strength to choose safe love, especially when your past has programmed you to crave the opposite. It takes courage to unlearn the noise and pay attention to the quiet kind of love that builds deep roots. It takes self-awareness to notice when you're drawn to people who spark your wounds instead of your healing. But once you experience the power of love that is consistent, respectful, emotionally safe, you'll never again settle for anything less. Safe love allows you to show up fully, without fear of abandonment. You can have hard conversations without walking on eggshells. You can disagree without fearing that it will fall apart. That stability is not boring, it's revolutionary. And in that space, both people thrive. You create a relationship that isn't about survival, it's about expansion. And from there, you can build anything, a family, a future, a purpose, because the foundation is solid. So the next time you find yourself calling a kind, calm, communicative person too nice or too available, check yourself. Ask where that story came from. Ask whether you're pushing away the very thing you've always needed. And remind yourself that love should feel like home, not like a battlefield. Real love doesn't hold you back. It pushes you forward. It doesn't keep you small to feel safe or comfortable in the relationship. It doesn't get intimidated when you start shining a little brighter, talking a little louder, or standing a little tall. Real love looks at your growth and says, I'm proud of you, not you've changed. The truth is, if someone only supports the version of you that fits their needs and expectations, that's not love. It's control dressed as connection. When love is rooted in authenticity, it becomes a mirror that reflects both who you are and who you're becoming. It honors your evolution. It encourages your curiosity. It doesn't clip your wings so you stay grounded beside them. It opens its arms so you feel safe enough to fly. In this kind of love, you're not just surviving together. You're thriving. You're building, learning, evolving, and yes, that means facing uncomfortable truths. It means challenging each other. It means growth over convenience. But that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. So many people get into relationships because they're looking for comfort. And comfort is beautiful. It gives us peace, security, rest. But comfort alone can become a trap if it demands that you stay the same. Growth is messy. It disrupts routines. It challenges old dynamics. And not everyone has the emotional maturity to hold space for both who you are and who you're becoming. That's why real love isn't afraid of your evolution. It sees it as a gift. It knows that change isn't a threat, it's a sign of life. Some people will only love you at your current level, as long as you don't question the status quo, as long as you don't start thinking bigger or healing deeper. But the moment you begin to break old cycles or raise your standards, the foundation shakes. And that's not because you're doing something wrong, it's because the relationship was never built to expand with you, it was built to contain you. And that's when you have to choose, do I shrink to stay or do I grow and trust that love will meet me where I'm going? Real love won't force you to choose. It will walk beside you as you change. It will adapt, grow and evolve with you. It will challenge you in healthy ways, not with criticism, but with care. Not by tearing you down, but by holding you accountable to your highest self. And in that space, you'll feel free. Free to explore new parts of yourself, free to follow new dreams, free to speak your truth without fear of being too much or not enough. Let's be honest, growth is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored. It pulls you out of familiar patterns. It requires you to look in the mirror and ask, is this who I want to be? Real love doesn't just tolerate that process, it respects it, it celebrates it. It says, I see how hard you're trying and I'm here with you. That kind of support is sacred. It doesn't mean agreeing with everything you do. It doesn't mean losing identity in the name of unity. It means showing up honestly, even when it's hard, because the foundation of the relationship is built on growth, not fear. When you're with someone who supports your growth, you feel empowered, not diminished. You feel seen, not managed. You feel like you have space to fail and room to rise again. That's the kind of love that creates emotional safety. It says you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be real. And in a world full of performance and pretense, that kind of love is revolutionary. But here's the thing, before you can receive that kind of love, you have to give it to yourself. You have to support your own growth first. You have to stop playing small so others feel comfortable. You have to stop staying quiet when your soul wants to speak. You have to stop apologizing for evolving. When you become the kind of person who holds space for your own transformation, you naturally attract people who do the same. That's how it works. You don't find growth-oriented love by wishing for it. You find it by becoming the version of you who no longer settles for anything less. Real love will never ask you to abandon your potential. It will never ask you to stay stagnant just to keep things easy. Real love knows that ease isn't the same as alignment, and it will choose the harder conversations, the deeper healing, the longer road, because it's invested in the long game, not the quick fix. It's not afraid of the dark nights or the shifting seasons. It's rooted in something deeper: trust, respect, mutual vision. So if you're in a space right now where your growth feels threatening to someone else, take that as a red flag, not just for them, but for you. Ask yourself, what part of me still thinks I have to play small to be loved? And then challenge that part. Hold it, rewire it, release it. Because the love that truly feels like home will never make you choose between who you are and who you're becoming. It will stand in awe of both. We live in a world that loves the idea of instant gratification. Swipe, match, date, fall in love, like it's some magical sequence that leads to the forever we've dreamed of. We've romanticized the meet cute and fantasized about the perfect person just walking into our lives and changing everything. But here's the raw truth that so many people don't want to accept. Real love, the kind that feels like home, is not stumbled upon. It is not some pre-packaged, ready-to-serve fairy tale. It is built layer by layer, moment by moment, day by day, and it takes intention, not just attraction. Building a love that feels like home means you stop waiting to be rescued by the perfect partner and start doing the internal work to become one. You stop expecting relationships to magically complete you and begin realizing they're a mirror reflecting your own sense of wholeness or lack thereof. When you build something real, you're not chasing butterflies, you're planting roots. You're building a life, not a moment. And that means showing up fully, consistently, and honestly. This kind of love doesn't happen by accident. It happens when two people decide to choose each other every single day, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's messy, even when it's not picture perfect. It's easy to love someone in the highlight reel, but home isn't built in the high points, it's built in the everyday. It's built in the quiet support, the mundane check-ins, the uncomfortable conversations that make you grow. That's where the foundation is laid, that's where the bricks are placed. To build a love that feels like home, you need more than chemistry. You need compatibility, shared values, mutual respect, emotional safety, and most importantly, emotional maturity. Because no matter how deep the attraction is, without maturity, relationships fall apart when real life starts showing up. When stress hits, when differences arise, wounds get triggered. Love that lasts isn't built by perfect people, it's built by people willing to work through the imperfections together. And let's not pretend this kind of love doesn't take effort. It absolutely does. It takes communication that isn't just about words, but about listening with intention and responding with empathy. It takes patience, because building something that lasts can't be rushed. It takes vulnerability, because you can't build intimacy without truth. And it takes accountability, because you're not just showing up for the relationship, you're showing up as the healthiest version of yourself in it. This is the love that feels like home, not because it's easy, but because it's real. Because in this kind of love, you're not walking on eggshells, you're not pretending, you're not questioning your worth every time things get hard. You know your foundation is strong because you build it that way, brick by brick, with intention, trust, honesty, and consistency. Let's talk about what home really means in this context. It's not just about safety. It's about resonance. It's about finding someone with whom your soul can rest without performance. It's about walking into a space emotionally, spiritually, and mentally where you don't have to prove anything to be loved, where your flaws are not deal breakers but opportunities for connection, where growth is not just accepted but encouraged, where your most authentic self doesn't feel like too much, it feels just right. That's not something you stumble into, that's something you co-create. You co-create it when you decide to heal your wounds, so you're not projecting them onto someone else. You co-create it when you learn how to regulate your emotions instead of exploding in anger or withdrawing into silence. You co-create it when you stop expecting someone else to read your mind and start communicating clearly. You co-create it when you become emotionally available and open your heart to love that doesn't play games. Because love that feels like home isn't passive, it's active. It's built on decisions, not just feelings. You decide to be present. You decide to fight fair. You decide to forgive. You decide to grow. And through those decisions, over time, you create something unshakable, not because it's perfect, but because it's rooted in something deeper than attraction. It's rooted in alignment, in shared direction, in commitment to the process, not just the outcome. And here's the beautiful part. When you build that kind of love, it transforms you. It teaches you that being safe doesn't mean being stuck. That consistency doesn't mean complacency. That home is not a place, it's a presence. It's the energy you both bring into the space you create together, and that energy is not manufactured, it's cultivated day by day with intention. So stop chasing the fantasy that someone's going to come into your life and magically fix everything. Stop looking for a shortcut to the kind of love that takes time, effort, and emotional investment. Instead, focus on who you are becoming in the process. Build yourself into the kind of person who can sustain deep, meaningful, grounded connection. Because only then will you recognize someone who's ready to build it with you. The love that feels like home is out there, but not in the form of a quick fix. It's waiting in the hearts of people who are ready to build, brick by brick, the kind of connection that lasts a lifetime.